This episode of Deep Thrones, we review House of the Dragon Season 3, Episode 5, Unbowed and Unbent. We watch as Ormond Hightower weaves his web in King's Landing. We travel through the mud with Kristen Cole and Gwaine, and we all wonder what the hell's going on at Harrenhal, plus many more hilarious segments. Winter is here.
Check out the head, switch, shooters on swoosh, hitters don't miss. Aria just added a ton of y'all to my list. Bitch, death wish, not to be messed with, tested quiz. They shooting shots, hitting bricks, we testing the kids.
Welcome to Deep Thrones, the most entertaining podcast in the world of Ice and Fire. I'm your host, Sims. Your other host, Sheedy's here. What's up, Sheeds?
What's up, everybody? Happy House of the Dragon Day.
Happy House of the Dragon Day. Happy Sunday. Actually, Monday. You're listening to this on Monday, probably. Hopefully, it's a beautiful week. This episode had a lot to unpack, a lot of jumping from scene to scene. I think we can quickly say that Spain won the World Cup. So
Yeah.
whoever had Spain, I think the torch has officially been passed from Messi to Yamal, I think.
Yeah.
Lamine Yamal. Probably butchering that name, but pretty cool to see the official passing of the torch.
Defense wins championships, and Spain was the best defensive team in the tournament. I think they had shutouts like 5 or 6 times, something ridiculous like that. Their defense was amazing, and
And
Argentina, yeah,
they've officially won 38 consecutive games, I think. 38 consecutive matches.
wow,
Insane.
good for
Insane.
them. They earned it. That was awesome. It was cool to see a country that hadn't won it in a while. I know Spain had won it once before, but they're not one of these like classic like France or Argentina powerhouses. So for as much as I watch soccer, which is nowhere near as much as you do, but I do around the World Cup get a little into it. I like to watch it. And
Their star is 19. It's kind of like Jacaerys if he, lived a little longer.
yeah, well, poor Jace, man, poor Jace. We always got to tie it back to the world of Westeros, and but it was a good game. I watched it, a lot of extra time. I wish it went to PKs. I think the penalties would have been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's tough when a team gets a red card because then it's like,
Down a man.
they're just trying to push to PKs, and then if they end up winning, it's like, oh, that's disappointing so
Yeah.
I was okay with it, but hate to see a red card in that situation.
No, agreed. But who didn't get a red card? Ryan Condal for this episode of House of the Dragon. All right, we're gonna get into it, or maybe he did actually. I guess that's ambiguous. We'll let you know at the end of the episode. Did he get a red card, or maybe he won, or did he get a yellow card? There's a lot of options. But this was episode 5 of season 3, Unbowed and Unbent.
Unbowed and unbrent. Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. So the opening scene is Roddy, the Ruin, and Oscar Tully. These are the remaining forces of Daemon's army still in the Riverlands, holding court. Last episode, Kristen said they are going to be making their lives hard by doing guerrilla warfare. Well, they're doing it now. They're starting to do little skirmishes against their camp, and Roddy and Oscar are just discussing their next moves.
Yeah, they're doing it. They're doing it effectively. They're basically sabotaging all the bridges and roadways before the rivermen get to them. And so you're seeing a major delay in the Tully and Winter Wolf camp. Roddy's starting to get pissed off. He's like, we would never put up with this shit up north. And Oscar's like, okay, chill out. We know the lands. We're going to play their own game and we're going to do it better than them.
Yeah.
And we see that play out throughout this episode.
Yeah, that's just honestly just the old switcheroo every time, never fails. That's been the old switcheroo is a time-honored move that is classic.
You
Um,
ever heard of the Batman?
yeah, I've heard of the Bat. We're not going to get into the Batman, all right? This is a made-up fantasy that you've created. Kristen and his men also do attack one of the Riverlord camp. I think they killed Lord Piper is the individual who gets killed, and then they're just like setting tents on fire. And there's kind of like, hey, we're doing all right, we're winning. Um, and then
I
quickly.
wondered in this scene if Oscar intentionally sent Lord Piper as like bait to slow down Kristen Cole's camp and then kind of get the jump on them to Starry Sept.
I kind of think so, which is funny because he
I
kind
mean,
of
they got piped.
they did. Yeah, Lord Piper got piped. It's in the name. It's sort of like when Robb Stark with Whispering Wood had to literally sacrifice men to Tywin's army. Sometimes Can't make an omelet without cracking a couple eggs, or a Lord Piper. So had to happen. We get a cut to Harrenhal. A lot of cutthroats are going to try to invade Harrenhal this episode to kill Aemond. Alice Rivers confronts them. She like scares them off, and then Aemond awakens from like a really bad dream, and Alice kind of calms him down. It's a really weird scene. Did he see a lot of weird mommy stuff going on with Aemond this season?
I feel like Eamon's got Damon's storyline from last season. And he's just tripping balls now at Harrenhal. Alice is doing her thing. And this time she scares away bounty hunters with ghost stories and they just kind of scurried off like a Scooby-Doo film.
Yeah, she told them about Batmaning, and they're like, "We're out of here. We're gonna hit the road." Yeah, it's weird. I do appreciate that it's condensed this season at least, and I like Alice Rivers. I do. I like when she's on screen. I'm happy. I think she's really interesting. The actress I think does a really good job, and I also she's got like a very thick Scottish accent, and I love it. I think it like for some reason that accent for that character is like weirdly perfect.
Is that Scottish or Irish? I picked up like an Irish
I think
there.
she's Scottish technically. I
Okay,
think,
okay.
which is interesting. Alan of Hull is Irish. I'm trying to think,
Mm,
they got so many. I mean, it's all like UK
yeah,
or Western Europe.
yeah.
It's crazy. Orwell walks the keep. There's a ton of cats. The cats are there. They
Love
got
to
the
see it.
cats. And he visits Alicent and Helena. Alicent wants the plan BT for Helena, and Orwell's like, "Listen, I'm happy to help, but I kind of got to stop helping."
Yeah, I don't know if Orwell realizes that he's being tailed or if just generally he's like, yeah, this is a bad idea because I'm now in service to Rhaenyra. I can't be doing this shit for you anymore. But yeah, he says I got to pull the plug.
Is he though? Like, I'm sure my Siri is watching everyone because she's always grappling for power, but at the same time, it's like Rhaenyra is super uncoordinated right now. I feel like there's no, like, from that scene, we literally get Sabbath of Frey is like, yo, I hear that you're saying any cutthroat gets Harrenhal. Your son came over here. She doesn't say last season, but she thinks it. She's like, your son came over here last season and made a deal with us. And, we have 2,000 crazy ass Northmen used our bridge, and I'm supposed to get Harrenhal. And Rhaenyra's like, well, my son's dead, which is like weird. I was like, when Rhaenyra said that, I was like, whoa, Rhaenyra, come on, his body's not even cold yet. And then so she's like, she kind of like threatened to Sabbatha without threatening her, and Sabbatha agrees to be on her small council.
Yeah, it's cool to see Sabbatha Frey coming to the council and she has a pretty funny scene at the small council later on, but you really start to get a feel for how condensed this timeline actually is. Like, yeah, we had to wait 2 years before or between seasons, but this stuff is still fresh on the mind of all the characters that we're seeing on screen. And Frey is like, just yesterday, your boy was like, "We're gonna have Harrenhal. The
Yeah.
Northmen crossed. We held up our side of the deal, and you're already going back on this." And she's got a valid point. And I think again, it's another tick in the column of Rhaenyra kind of mismanaging the nobles of Westeros.
You made a deal. Like a deal's a deal. You got to honor it. You can't. And also, what are you going to give a cutthroat Harrenhal? No, you're not. You can't do
I
that,
mean, we saw in Game of Thrones what the Freys are capable of once you start breaking your word.
dude. Let me tell you. Especially on their territory, you make promises. You better keep them. All right, because they'll
Mhm.
get you. And Sabbatha in the books is she way younger?
I mean, she's middle-aged. She's a middle-aged woman.
Oh, okay.
Her kids were the same age as Rhaenyra's kids,
I pictured
but
her way younger, kind of like a baddie, maybe a Sabrina Carpenter type. But yeah, I don't know.
it's maybe a Sabrina Carpenter type.
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
I'm just spitballing here. What?
I,
But
I
she
like
looked.
that. I like that imagination.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was a little bit. She was middle-aged, but she wasn't as old as the portrayal in this show.
Gotcha. Okay. And then we do cut to the small council, as you said. They're all fighting over what to do. Damon is starting to get pissed because some of his men are getting like killed. Like gold cloaks are dropping like flies because there's some shit going on inside King's Landing where the Greens have forces there like from the takeover. Like they still have men loyal. They're hearing about what's going on. The River Lords. Vagar is missing.
Mhm.
Alan and Bela are tired, but they're trying to find Vagar. There's so much going on, and Rhaenyra, with her makeshift council that Sabbath had just joined, and Torrin Manderly is trying to like catch her up to speed. It's a mess.
Tori Manderly just like whispering and explaining who the different players are in the room, and Damon's like, annoyingly looking over, like, please stop talking while I'm talking.
Yeah, oh, does Torrin Manderley get a lot of play in the books? And is that how you
No.
pictured him? Because when I read about Torrin Manderley, I pictured him more like a Sabrina Carpenter type.
I mean, I'm gonna be, I might be exposing myself here. I don't even recall a Torrin Manderley in the Red
No,
Keep throughout the entire Fire and Blood
no,
book.
you're not exposed. I'm in the same boat. I'm read it as well, and I've it's sort of a I don't know. He's an
You know,
interesting
maybe
guy.
maybe he's good. Maybe there's some end game there where he's a little sneaky and has been
Mm.
intentionally removed from the records. I don't know. But
Oh,
these are one of the scenes where like I have to pause to catch up and like make sure I'm noting everything that happens because like you said, there's so much being said in a matter of like a minute and a half. You mentioned Vagar's being reported at Windish Town in the Riverlands. Gold cloaks are being killed in Flea Bottom. But the fun part here is Rhaenyra is demanding that Daemon go and scout the Riverlands because Baela's supposedly too tired because she's been doing this night and day for the past however many weeks.
yeah,
And Daemon's like, yeah, I'm gonna take care of the business with the gold cloaks first, and then I'm going to go and do what you say. And
big fight.
Rhaenyra, yeah, of course, yeah. Rhaenyra's like, am I back on Dragonstone where men are just disobeying me all the time? And Daemon's like, no, I'm doing what's in your best interest. But he is a little cheeky here because he does remind Rhaenyra of like the whole reason the city watch isn't secure in the first place is because you decided not to pay him.
Yeah.
And he also mentions that she didn't need to like command Luthor to go after the people who did the graffiti. Like that was a misstep. And we even talked about it at that episode of like, you're already in control, you're sitting on the throne. Why do you have to be worried about who's drawing graffiti across the city? So
Yes.
I thought that was a powerful scene of like Damon's even realizing, hey, you're kind of fucking up here, Rhaenyra.
Really do take Matt Smith as Damon for granted. In his lines this season, his lines this episode, I like scribbled out the best line like three times, and I think each time it was like a Damon line, and we'll get
Mm-hmm.
to that. But he was on fire. And I was actually recently talking to a friend of the pod, Ben, and me were talking about it. Matt Smith as Damon is like he's just a force on this show. And I admit, I'm pretty sure I told you when he was cast, I was like, oh, it's the Doctor Who guy, like he's on the Crown, whatever. And it's just absolutely eating crow, stand corrected. Like the guy's amazing. That's 100% on me. I'll be a fan for forever. We get word that Joffrey has returned. Joffrey, of course, is Rhaenyra's third bastard. And he
All
is
right, easy with the B word, okay?
I'm sorry. I'm just stating facts. Just state. So Joffrey, of course, is Harwin Strong's son, and is also Rhaenyra's oldest son. Her final son with Laenor slash Harwin Strong, and then the rest of her children with Daemon. Rhaenyra will not visit him because she's too busy, which is hilarious. I love that. Um, and then we cut to Aegon and Larys walking.
Yeah, Lagon is basically my favorite storyline
Le-
now.
I,
Like
L-
I
Laegon.
remember seeing Lagon
I love
like
Laegon. Keep going. I'm sorry. I had to interrupt
I
just to say I love Laegon.
well, I remember when we broke down the trailer and I was like, man, I'm pissed. Aegon is like up and moving around. Like if he actually fell off a dragon, he
Yeah.
wouldn't be that mobile, blah blah blah. And now I'm like very into every time that Lagon is on the screen. In this in this one specifically, Aegon's doing his thing, bitching, looking for Aemond, obsessed with killing his brother Aemond, and this materializes into a beautiful scene later. But I'll let us get to that naturally.
I think you're 100% right though, and I do love that they are very not that far from Rook's Rest, and they're both cooked because they're not in shape to travel that much. So they do kind of address that, which I like. And I think you're right that these last season, a lot of Damon's storyline in the books is not known, and I think they fumbled him a little bit with how much he was at Harrenhal. This season, you said this in the look ahead that we did. Aegon was in that boat. We're like, we don't really know what he's doing while he's traveling with Larys at this point, and they're nailing
Mhm.
it. This has been great. Their scenes together are always witty. The dialogue later we'll get to in one of the scenes with Laris was sharp as a tack.
Mhm.
And Matthew Needham and Tom Glencarney as Laris and Lagon, respectively, have been amazing. What's the other version? Would be Eris. Oh, the Mad King. Let's stick with Lagon. We like Lagon. Lagon's Myceria visits Alicent and sees the tea. Myceria, of course, being the mistress of whispers, will immediately go to Queen Rhaenyra and let her know. No, she won't. Because
Nope.
Allison has the gift of get this is a little bit much for me personally in this scene. I don't get it. I don't get how she's able to spin her web to get the white worm to not go tell the queen immediately.
Yeah, we don't know that Mysaria isn't. I guess there's no confirmation that Mysaria is not going to ultimately report this to Rhaenyra. If she doesn't, I don't see how it fits in with what we know about her so far, with being self-interested, with being always, it's either self-interested or she's looking out for the small folk and, flea bottom and the common people and things like that. So it wouldn't really make sense that she would take up sides with, Alicent Hightower, who is the opposite of all that, and never stood up for the small folk ever, as opposed to Rhaenyra, who is highborn, but at least she has shown that she cares, giving food and things to the small folk. So I don't really get it, if true.
Her and Rhaenyra got so close last season, Mysaria and Rhaenyra, I should say, and then kissed at the end of the season. And then this season, Mysaria has been begging for her favor the entire time. Like, this is how you get it, you
Yeah.
know? Like, what do you do? I don't get it. I don't get what her angle is. She's like, or she's doing like a Laris where she's like, well, Allison's right. I got to have an ace in the hole in case the Greens ultimately do prevail. I don't know. But I just don't get how you just don't immediately like, Rhaenyra has lifted you up beyond what you could ever have imagined.
Hmm.
Um,
Agreed.
from there, we got Cole and Gwaine marching and chatting. They're going to do that a lot. The horses freak out. There's like these crow's feet traps that I think the River Lords in the winter. Is a lot of River Lord talk from here on out. I don't know how involved the Winter Wolves are in all these schemes. I assume they're all just traveling together. And Cole's army now has to start like traveling on foot.
Yeah, brutal scene. You hate to see horses, little horses get hurt like that. But the positive note is Kristen and Gawain and the boys had some cute face paint on as they were going and ambushing and stuff. So that, that was,
First
take
off,
that for what it's worth.
they looked awesome. They looked awesome. I was like, maybe I should do the same Gorilla podcast, baby. Let's do it. But yeah, no, I do agree that that was kind of a dirty tactic. The horses didn't hurt anybody, but obviously mounted knights are a lot more deadly than non-mounted knights. And I'm, pour some out for the horses, and of course, Mr. Hands, R.I.P. So we go from there, and Damon and Luther have a quick chat. Um, about Luther's heavy-handedness, earlier with the graffiti artists, and we hear some commotion in this town square and in King's Landing, and they run, and the gold cloaks have been murdered. They're getting disemboweled, and they're getting like their eyes pecked out and stuff. It's pretty heavy-handed stuff. Also love Damon just like walking around King's Landing. It's a little like, hey buddy, be careful.
Well, I mean, he was known as the Prince of Flea Bottom, so it's on brand for him. This is a brutal, these are statement murders. These aren't just like, yeah, we're taking out gold cloaks to kind of thin their ranks. Like this is making a statement. It's interesting that there's no graffiti or anything accompanying it yet, because if you are making a statement, what is that other than I hate the gold cloaks that we see now? And then this cuts to a scene where there's a shadowy figure being reported by, what looked like one of Varys's little birdies. And then they send off a raven that ended up saying gold blood spilled, three marked in the tally, the count lies open.
Yeah.
And we see the reader of that is
My sweet Prince Ormond Hightower. He's not an actual prince, but my sweet king. Well, he's none of that. He's my sweet man, Ormond Hightower. Getting his little birdies, letting him know that and we know Ormond is going to be a player in terms of like really hurting Rhaenyra's legitimacy in the eyes of the small folk. Obviously, is what he's doing. Ormond and Darren have like a really good talk. Is this also the scene where they play like medieval chess?
yes,
They
yeah,
play
it
some medieval
is.
chess. Daron beats him and then gets real scared because he's like, oh man, he's pissed because he lost because Ormond is kind of like mentally like a 13-year-old boy. And he's like, I'm sorry, I just got lucky. And then Ormond like slams the table, gets up, gets behind Daron, puts his hands on his shoulders and goes, never apologize for victory. And I'm like, what a weird guy. I love it. I love
He's
how
he's
weird he is.
interesting. In that scene with Kristen Cole and Gawain Hightower, Gawain even says like we kind of let him win because
Yeah.
he was even a little shitty ratty fuck back
They
then.
would like
And
race up the
then
beacon. Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
then, you get this scene where you see him getting beat, and of course he's all butthurt about it. But it's funny the timing of that chess match. Ormond was, all high and mighty, talking about the histories of the High Towers and how the Martells are mixed in, and Maria Martell was one of the only people to resist Targaryen rule and
Yeah,
dragons. And then all of a sudden, mid-speech, Darren beats him at chess, and he just like
no doubt.
freezes. So
Yeah,
I thought it was funny how they timed it up with like Ormond trying to school Darren, and Darren ultimately
schooling
being this.
him.
Yeah.
The teacher became the student. You love to see it. I do. There is a great sort of, and he's tying, and I think this is all just part of his gaslight of Daron of like, we are, we have the ability to resist them as well, the dragons, and like Dorne is still not in the Seven Kingdoms at this point in the histories. I think it's like right before Night of the Seven Kingdoms. Like it's very recent in that show that they get in the mix. So
Hmm.
he's sort of continuing his gaslight, and he shows him these coins he had made with Daron's face in them, and he says, "We're calling you King Daron now. Like, you're going to be the king." And he just wants to be his
Hmm.
Tywin Lannister, the real king behind this kind of proxy.
He's jumping the gun a little bit, but now it's starting to make a lot more sense to me. Remember earlier this season when Ormond got word that Aegon had quote unquote died in battle and Aemond was now sitting the throne,
Yeah,
and he was just so nonchalant. He's like, one king, what's the difference?
yeah,
Now it's making sense to me that the plan was always for Darren to be his king.
yeah, yeah, 100%. It's his path to power, right? To real power, not just some warden of one of the many regions of Westeros.
Hmm.
Alicent and Helena have a chat. They're going to plan an escape. Helena is being jerked around by Alicent quite a bit. I don't think she wants to really be a part of it because she has to leave Jaehaera for the escape. Alicent was going to force feed her the tea. She refused to take it. She said, "That's my child. I want to keep it." Like Helena,
It's
the
one of
poor
the
Helena.
only times we've seen Helena stand on business and like get aggressive.
I'm glad she is. It's about time she stands up for herself. I can't wait. Maybe season four, Rhaenyra will for herself, but I'm glad to see Helena doing it. Um, and she deserves to do it because she's a human. Like, and she's technically, like she said, I was the queen. There's not really too much else there. And then Adam and Bela have a quick talk, which is not really much there at all.
Before we get too far from
No, you're
it, I
good.
do want to give an impromptu actual 1 minute of Westeros history. Since we talked about Princess Maria Martell,
Yeah,
we'll just go back a little bit. So that's referencing Dorne, of course, during Aegon's conquest. Aegon had two sister wives, Rhaenys and Visenya, who also rode dragons. The three of them basically conquered the Seven Kingdoms, or six in this case. And Maria Martell, like Ormond mentioned, was one of the only ones to resist, took her troops out into the deserts of Dorne, did extreme tactics like poison her own wells, basically, burning and torching everything so that the invading troops had no access to resources. And then ultimately, Rhaenys Targaryen, Aegon's sister, flew in and tried to conquer via Dragonback and was killed, which left basically ended that conquest, but left a big resentment between the Targaryens and the Dornishmen, specifically the Martells,
yeah.
and that's kind of the wake that we're in now in this scene. But just wanted to give a little background on that.
That's fantastic. And they said the lady, maybe I misinterpreted this when I read the books, but they said the lady was like a toad-looking lady and really hideous.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
she bald and wide and
Wow.
yeah.
I
Hmm.
pictured her as quite comely and beautiful, more like a Sabrina Carpenter type. So from there, Aemond has a bad dream because he's at Harrenhal, and that's what Harrenhal does. And Alice is there watching him sleep, which, like, if I'm Aemond, I'm like, can I have a minute? Can you just can I snooze without you, for a few minutes? And they have like a weird conversation, kind of, because he thinks he's like, where's Vagar? She's like, Vagar's gone. Their conversation is really a good conversation about how like the child who's been grieved the most often, who grieves the mother the most often gets the mother's love. Aemond actually complains about Aegon being Alicent's favorite. Well, Aemond was kind of like a scary kid. And then I don't know, there's like a weird Alice Aemond thing going on. I don't know if he views her as a girlfriend that he's interested in, as a mom, as
A
both.
mom figure, yeah,
Yeah, which is
and
in
he
his case is dangerous.
exactly, yeah, exactly. Ellis better be on the lookout. He
Yeah.
mentions even that he worshipped Aegon growing up, and it's just an interesting juxtaposition to when we see the Lagon scenes and Aegon's just obsessed with killing Aemond, which
It's
is
the
kind
next
of
scene.
sad.
They cut right to it, and Aegon says, Aemond was gifted in tourneys. He could speak High Valyrian. I couldn't. He could do this. He could do that. And then, he's really it's we just saw Aemond complain about Aegon, and now we're seeing Aegon complain about Aemond, which I don't think is too probably I'm sure siblings have these kinds of conversations all the time where you're kind of complaining about
Hmm.
the lot. And Aemond was the talented one and this and that, and then Laris has just had enough. And he's like, since we fucking left, all you've done is whine. He's like, you were the firstborn son of a king and you could have done everything in your power to make yourself like a real contender to Rhaenyra. But you're a
Hmm.
bitch. He's like, your style, whack. The way you talk, whack. Your face, whack. He's like, everything about you sucks. And he's like, not only were you a shit king, but you're a shit man.
No, no notes. Laris ate on that. Just, what do the kids do now? Those little snaps.
They
We
snap.
snap. That was a beautiful. I think that was maybe if the episode ended there, I would have been like, yeah, that this was a nine. This was a nine.
Just on that quote, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rhaenyra has a great scene where she's praying in the sept, and Daemon walks up, just cracking up. He's like, "Why are we doing this?" He's like, "We don't need to pray to the seven gods. They're not our gods." He's like, "We just." But the whole gist of this scene is she's kind of like they're talking to Valerian, and she's like, sorry, Valerian, and she's like, Aegon's still alive, Aemon's still alive. Like we have secured nothing. This is a mess. Everything's a mess. We have no money. The gold cloaks are dropping like flies. My small council's all over the place. We can't find Vagar. Like we're not. Ormond is running some sort of racket out of Old Town or out of Tumbleton. This isn't good. Like this is not a good situation. Our lives are in danger.
And we see Rhaenyra becoming paranoid, and she's starting to turn to a little bit of supernatural. Why is all this happening to us? Is this fate? I think this is kind of a slippery slope, potentially a dangerous slope for Rhaenyra, who's already got some things going against her, like you mentioned. Damon's trying to rein her back in. Like, dude, you have all the power. You have dragons. Gods themselves don't worry about shit like this. It's not fate. Like it's all within our hands, and you're making this something that it's not. And Rhaenyra's not going to be able to. In my mind, I don't think she's going to be able to climb out of this hole that she's
Yeah.
slipping into right now. And one thing that I had noted on this scene, Damon's kind of going about this, I don't know, goose chase or investigation around Flea Bottom and things like that to figure out what's happening to the Gold Cloaks. And isn't that the job of the Mistress of Whispers? Like, what is what
I
is
don't know.
Mysaria doing? Like, why is there no
Withholding information.
Yeah,
She's too busy withholding information to get any new information. You know what I
I
mean?
mean, I honestly thought, remember the scene that we were just talking about after the two gold cloaks got murdered, and then there was like the little birdie who went
Yes.
up for the note to go out.
Thought it was
Like
my
I
serious
thought that
people.
was gonna be like a Mysaria playing both sides and like trying to stir up something.
Yeah.
Um, but
I-
no, it was Ormond.
Yeah, she has no irons in the fire right now. She's got nothing. She got Allison and Helena, and that's a great chip. And it's not even really like it's not I don't know how powerful that information actually is in terms of like well, all Rhaenyra is going to do is kill that kid, right? Or send the kid to the wall, send the baby to the wall, like we talked about last week. Whatever she's going to do that kid, but it doesn't change anything in terms of the war. Rhaenyra needs her to figure out who in this town is Ormond's men so we can weed them out. Like,
Yeah,
yes, Helena having what's the I mean, I understand that mystery that they're trying to do with Myceria, but like eventually the kid's gonna either become obvious or she's gonna have to give birth to it, and everyone's gonna know, and Rhaenyra is gonna just yeet it off the Red Keep or, do something with it. Like it doesn't like that information is nowhere near as important, even though the show is trying to build it up to be, which it's an heir to the throne. Yeah, but they're stuck in the Red Keep.
right.
And
They're prisoners. They're
she's gonna have to give birth
prisoners.
to it with Rhaenyra standing there. Like I understand, why it's big, but I just don't see it as important. Yeah, Mysteria is kind of and obviously kind of a piece of shit. She's playing both sides.
this show's earning a longer leash, and I think I'll grant it after the success I think of the first three episodes and
Yeah,
even the fourth.
yeah.
But it is kind of disappointing with what they're doing with Myseria's character. I mean, this was someone that her webs were kind of intertwined throughout all of Fire and Blood, and where was the White Worm involved? Was she part of this decision? Was she part of Damon turning this way or blah blah? And so to see it kind of be ineffective overall in how she's the mistress of whispers is disappointing to me so far.
Turns out it was overhyped. She was not
Yeah,
too. She was not
yeah.
too in the mix. In fact, she was just lying to Rhaenyra the
Like,
whole
why does she
time.
have a nickname? If this is all she's done in the show so far, why do people
White
call her the
Worm.
White Worm?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know what she's done. She's done really nothing. She doesn't even get like her point across. I mean, she did convince Rhaenyra to just be so small folk focused, but I think that's ultimately going to backfire. So yeah, whose side is she really on? The kiss has never come up again. They kissed that one time, and that's just gonna be that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not even trying to be I'm not even trying to be funny. I'm not even
Yeah.
trying to be silly. Like, oh, she's being silly, you know? I'm just trying to be like, what? Why is that? Like, they never even addressed it. Like, hey, remember when we kissed? Like, I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'll reel it in.
No, it's great. Great question.
Kristen and Gwaine, I just wrote for this scene, are in the shit. They are slugging through mud. They have no horses. They are getting deserters by the dozens. Their army is shrinking by the day. Men are dropping like flies from exhaustion. The River Lords successfully have outpaced them and now are putting obstacles in their way. They're burning bridges. There's nothing to be eaten because they're killing livestock, that kind of stuff.
They're beating them at their own game.
Larys and Aegon return to Rook's Rest. They bump into old Tywin Lannister is there. And there it looks like we got a new three-headed monster on. We got the new three, what do they call them in the NBA? The big three. And these guys are gonna get to the
Big three.
bottom. They're gonna figure it out. We got Tywin, Larys, and Aegon. Let's go.
Referring to those three as the big three is crazy work. But I think an important part here is Aegon does come to terms of like just hire the fucking ship. Like take me, whatever your plan is, I'm in now. You're right. I have been a bitchy little boy and I'll listen.
That's my king, self-awareness. I love that. Alicent and Helena try to escape and immediately bump into Myceria, who's like, "Guess what? I got eyes and ears everywhere." And then Alicent is like, "Don't tell the queen." And Myceria's like, "Sure thing. Sweet cheeks won't do it." Which honestly, if Alicent told me to do anything, I'd do it. Anything at all.
The
I,
gall to just get caught in your massive escape plan and then go, well, there's no need to tell the queen that any of this transpired. It's like,
yeah,
yeah, that's like the only need.
yeah. What are you talking about? This is what I do. This is my job. I tell the queen anything. That's what the Master of Whispers. You know how many times Varys was like, "I have word that this is happening." You know what I mean? That's all he did.
Hmm.
Was he whispered. He survived from the Mad King who was burning everyone because he was so paranoid, to Robert Baratheon because he was so good at providing information. That's like his whole
Hmm.
thing. He would stay alive just because he'd be like, "Well, then you're not going to hear this little tidbit," And Myceria is providing nothing. And
Nothing.
Alicent is like that must be the greatest wordsmith of all time because she's able to just talk people out of things that make. I wrote she's a cunning linguist. Pretty funny, right? Kind of
That's
silly.
just this is why the listeners tune in every week
Why they
for
pay us the big bucks,
material like
Chris?
that.
This is why we'll edit this part out. But dude, we're just doing so good.
And also in this scene, Helena is insistent that she gets outside so that she can see the moon. And I don't know what that's about. I think there's probably some sort of tie in there or some sort of foreshadowing, but
Yeah,
we don't know yet.
we'll see. We'll see. Rhaenyra visits Joffrey. He's fast asleep. Just kind of peeks in at him. Wet nurse is like, he tried to stay awake for you. It's kind of sad. It's. So, but Heavy weighs the crown. She's busy. Gwaine and Cole see a dragon sort of thing in the ground. They see a bridge that's sort of burned. Cole's like, we're gonna have to make some decisions soon on what we want to do. But Gwaine's like, they've completely outpaced us. And then from there, there's cutthroats at Harrenhal again, and they're kind of
Again,
yeah, they're fucking with Alice, which I was not cool with. I love Alice. And then Aemond is healthy and hale, and he's able to fight them off and kill them.
yeah, Eamon's back. He's fully back. It's like Batman after the first time he fought Bane,
Yeah,
and
you're
then he
right.
trains again.
Yeah. He breaks his back and then he comes back and he's like, yes, pain. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I do. That scene was good. It was interesting to see Eamon sort of get his mojo back. But it's like, let's get Eamon back on Vagar. Let's get everything okay. I'm curious what they're gonna do with him and Alice. There's a weird thing going on there. Are they gonna be interested in each other? In that kind of way, do you think?
I think Alice would definitely lead him on if she thinks Harrenhal ownership would be involved with it.
Dude, I get let on all the time by girls who are looking for ownership of Harrenhal. It's insane. It's insane. Tylan and Laris discuss what to do next. As they're doing that, Janos, that bully from last episode who made Aegon kiss his foot, is going through Aegon's shit and discovers his crown. And he goes, Gregor, is it? And Aegon just stabs the fuck out of him. And as he
Shanks him.
shanks him, yeah, and he's like bleeding out and he's holding his mouth as he's shanking him. And he goes, like he says something like, "You will refer to me as Your Grace" or something like that. Pretty cool. It was awesome. Big come
This
up.
is this is why I love Aegon, just because of hijinks like this. Aegon's brutally murdering someone, and you just see Lair's kind of just like a face palm, like, oh gosh, again,
He's not made a
here we
single good
go.
decision. Yeah. Damon gives an awesome speech to the City Watch. He's like, "Listen, we may not have coin right now, but if I can interest you in the future, we will have coin in spades." But it is like a rousing speech.
That's one way to put it. I think it missed, honestly. I think it hit with the older guard that were there, but I think they even cut to some scenes where the younger guardsmen were kind of like, what the fuck? Like, what's this guy talking about? Going and conquering Essos and being old Valyria? Like, what?
Yeah.
I'm trying to get paid. I got like mouths to feed at home.
Yeah, I need cash now. What do you want me to call JG Wentworth? You piece of shit. Pay
It's
me.
they're like the homie just got murdered and disemboweled yesterday, and you're talking about like old Valyria. Like, get the fuck out of my
Yeah.
face. My theory is that there it's an inside job for sure.
There's definitely some hands. There's definitely some green. Like the Greens were paying them for the longest time. They were
Yeah.
Gold Cloaks were under the Allison sort of proxy government while Viserys was very sick. So it's like there's no way that some of them aren't like Otto wouldn't have immediately installed loyalists in Daemon's little military in King's Landing. Are you nuts? Like, come on.
Well, in the book, Wayne Hightower's second in command in the City Watch, and
Really? It's so interesting.
as soon as Rhaenyra takes over, Luthor Largen as part of that coup kills him.
Wow. No, I love that. Yeah, that's interesting as hell. Damon tortures a man, pulls out his eyeball, and this guy kind of gives some information about who they're looking for, shows them the Daron gold coin, and they immediately know, like, okay, Ormond Hightower is the one doing this, which, like, I don't know, is that supposed to be like a big reveal? They're like, what? Ormond's the one who's pro greens?
Again, the fact that it's Daemon doing all this and not the Mistress of Whispers is just like kind of annoying to me. But
Yeah, agreed.
compliments of King Darren.
Yeah, and Laris last season was the one doing all this shit. He was like cutting out tongues, threatening people, and in this season it's like the queen and king have to do everything. Like the small council is failing. We then get a final look at Cole and Gwane's camp. Cole kind of gives him like a, listen, we're fucked, but there's no retreat. I'm not gonna go live in someone's house in their service. That's what they want. I'm going to keep going through battle and I'm going to die gloriously, or I'll either die gloriously in battle or we'll win. Those are the only two options, but there's no retreat at this point. He kind
Every
of gives up
time
on him. Go ahead.
every time Kristen Cole talks at this point, I'm just like,
I know, because it's so good. When
shut
he
up.
when he talks, you listen, is what you're saying, right? Oh no,
Oh
you're saying
God,
it to me.
I gag. It's like, dude, shut up. No one
I know.
cares.
I feel so bad for the actor. He's just he's like, this is the scene, and they're like, no, you're a terrible person. And he's acknowledged that. He's like, the character is clearly a bad man, but you got to act him truly, right, to the script.
But
Um,
like he's so conceited, and obviously, like you said, the actor is supposed to play that role. But I mean, if you count the amount of times he said "I" in his little monologue, it's probably, I mean, it's got to be over a dozen. I mean, it was, I was literally like, I'm gonna fast forward, and this, I did enjoy this episode, but I hated that entire monologue.
He's like marching a group of an entire battalion of men into the unknown where a ambush is surely waiting. And he's like, I. And it's like, you're going to get these guys fucking killed, buddy. And
Mhm.
this episode sort of ends with a lot of stuff happening while a Kristen
Yeah.
monologue is occurring. Gwaine like deserts. Gwaine takes off. Him and a couple guys are like, see you, Kristen. Good luck with your fucking plan. We're going to go hang out with Orman at Tumbleton and sniff his spices. Um, and there's a quick scene where while all this is going on, Adam says, we're rebuilding the fleet. Damon arrives, kind of like, I got to go check on the gold cloaks. Kristen's giving this speech. Alicent and Helena are trying to escape. They find sort of a passageway in their quarters, which there's a ton in those quarters. Magor, we don't need to get into the histories of it, but the whole thing is a labyrinth. Um, and as all this is going on, Damon's kind of like lanterning to the gold cloaks because he wants to go talk to Luther, and there's blood all over the place. But Chris, there's a lot to parcel there. I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, I mean, this was a very exciting ending to a somewhat mundane episode. I mean, there's a
Yeah,
lot going on verbally and a lot of kind of subtext information out there, but this was the most like heightened senses when I was watching it. But Helena drops the lamp and I literally was like, oh no, girl, baby, what is you doing?
I know.
And so
We
now
love
they're
Helena.
like,
We
we
love
love Helena.
Helena.
We don't want anything happen to sweet
Sweet
Helena,
Helena.
but so now they're just lost in the dark in the labyrinth, and Damon trudges through the City Watch barracks and runs into what is it? The feast for the traitors, it
A
says.
feast for traders, and like not all of them, obviously, because there's a ton of city watchmen, but a big, like all the high-ranking boys, probably
Yeah,
10 guys, are butchered at the table. Of course, Luther Largent, who has been huge this season, was one of them.
yep,
And
yep.
Damon just looks shocked.
Yeah, Luther and the boys not having a great dinner. Again, this
No.
is what leads me to think it's an inside job because how else would someone get that close in their barracks and
Yeah,
be able to get away with something like that?
agreed.
But it certainly presents a big dilemma for the blacks. And in the books, there is a lot of unrest in King's Landing. There are different figures that are part of that. One of them still hasn't been mentioned yet,
I know
but
exactly what you're talking about.
the shepherd
Yeah, the Good Shepherd.
is really the one who's causing all the chaos and uproar and unrest in Flea Bottom and throughout King's Landing as a whole. And we haven't heard that yet. They might be maybe hinting at some of that here. But Luther Largent in the books does not die that way. He dies trying to herd some of the shepherd's followers during a riot. So we'll see how that plays out. But I did like this ending, and as a book purist, I don't mind that this is the route that they're going as long as they land the ship. So
Yeah.
we'll see how it works out.
I do think too, one thing I wanted to note earlier is when those birdies are being passed, when the Greens kill those first couple gold cloaks, one of
Yep.
the men who has them has very distinct two different colored eyes. He was one of the
Mm,
guys on the ramparts early when he's like, "My lord," when Allison is like, "You all have to stand down," and he like takes his
mm,
helmet off and just walks away. He's
mm.
so he's clearly a Green loyalist as well. So I wanted to mention that earlier.
Good
I
good
forgot.
catch.
It came
Good
to me.
catch.
Yeah, he has very distinct, sort of rigid face and the different colored eyes. I was like, "Oh, that's that guy."
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. And one thing too, and it was during this at the end, like you said, there were a bunch of different scenes, so it's easy to skip over. But Damon did mention to Rhaenyra after like finding out that the coin was King Daeron Targaryen, he said we should have burned them. We should have burned them while we had the chance. Of course, referencing what we saw in the early in season where Daemon and the Dragon Seeds went out to meet the Hightower host.
yeah.
And the Hightower host was just, they're at a camp, they're exposed. They had one teenage dragon, Tessarian, definitely vulnerable to being attacked by the three bigger dragons.
Rhaenyra's unwillingness to do what is necessary in a very brutal world is hurting her cause right now. You got to do what's necessary sometimes, even if it's dastardly, you got to do it and you see the consequences.
I mean, it's not like they were civilians, like
They were
they're
soldiers.
armed enemy combatants, and you had every right to just torch them there out in the open. Could you imagine if Ormond and the Hightower host, Darren, Tessarion don't exist, like how much easier Rhaenyra's situation would be right now.
100%. And you gotta take into account too that going forward, Damon isn't gonna care about the sleepy little town of Templeton. He's gonna be like, just fucking torch it. He's gonna be like, if that's what it takes, he's like, what's the realm gonna do? Be upset? He's gonna be like, who
Yeah.
cares?
Yeah. Hmm.
But that was House of the Dragon season 3, episode 5, Unbound and Unbent. Chris, I'll go first. Controversial rating from me.
Okay.
Give it a five and a half.
Controversial.
My initial
Five
reaction
and a
was five and a
half.
half. I wasn't a huge fan of it. I thought it was really slow. Again, slow doesn't really matter. I mean, it was. People asked me before the episode, what do you think this episode's going to be? I said 100% abridged because I have an idea in my head and also from my own little research, 6, 7, and 8. What we know, what I think those will be is pretty action packed, kind of breakneck speed. So I knew this one would be slow, but it was slower than even I expected it to be. And I think, when you do 8 episodes, you're going to have that happen when all of a sudden the bridge just feels like a real long bridge, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And Condal, I don't think has ever done a great job of pacing his bridge episodes. Because in Game of Thrones, you could have a bridge episode that's like, "Woo, this is cooking." I like how this feels. This feels nice and good. And
Yeah.
sometimes Condal's bridge episodes, you're like, "Holy fuck, is this bridge gonna collapse?"
Yeah, I mean I respect that. I gave a similar rating. This was my lowest of the season. I gave it a 6.3
Wow.
for a lot of the same reasons you did. And I will say though, I do the fact that Rhaenyra's decisions and I guess decisions overall are starting to have consequences and people are getting called out for, the stuff that they've done throughout the past 2 seasons. That means a lot to me as far as storytelling goes. That means like, shit's gonna pay off pretty soon here. And so I'm excited to see that. But this one, it was a mid episode intentionally.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was mid. Unlike Sabrina Carpenter. Chris, best line, yes, Queen. What would you say was your best line?
My best line was from Damon to Rhaenyra. He said, "You are the queen of dragons. Your strength is your legitimacy."
That was mine.
Love that one.
I had a
Was
backup.
it?
That was mine, but I had a back. It was one of the ones. Yeah, it's a great line. It's an amazing line. Your strength is your legitimacy. You want some high septon to anoint you? Why? Who cares?
Hmm. Yeah, should have taken out the Hightower host when you had the chance. My Yas Queen was from Laris to Aegon, aka Lagon. You said it earlier, but you were a terrible king, but worse than that, you were a terrible man.
Love that. Wow. Wow. Real mean. Real mean. Aegon's Fallen Angels, of course, as I mentioned, has broken up, but if we were still together, we would have written a song, just absolutely a diss track on Laris, dude.
You got to make a new one. You got to make a new one. Lagon's
I might do it.
Fallen Angels.
Aegon's Fallen Angels, just to make up for Aegon's Fallen Angels breaking up. I don't want to get too into it. It's pretty upsetting. But my backup best line was Alice to the guys when she's telling the ghost story, and she said her founding stone swallowed the blood of men, and she's always thirsty. Talk about Harrenhal. It's kind of a cool line. Harrenhal's
Love it.
constantly killing these like ghosts. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. What is it, ghosts or something?
Ghost
Um,
stories.
and then my Yas Queen was you were talking about the scene when Damon was sort of questioning Rhaenyra, and she's like, "Why the fuck are you questioning me in front of the small council?" And he's like, "I have pledged to fulfill your command, just later."
I love when they're just husband and wife, when they're just normal husband and wives.
Yeah.
I'll do it.
I'll
I'll
take
get to
I'm gonna take the trash out, all right? The bag, there's still a lot of space in the bag. Look at all the space in the bag. You know. I'm single and I'm like, yeah, I get it.
it. I mean, you've been there.
Better,
You've been
yeah,
there.
I've been there. I've been there. All right, listen. Hottest moment. Chris, my hottest moment, easy one. King Daron. Hear me out. The Greens now have 3 kings. We got Aegon, we got Aemon, we got Daron. We're set. What more do you need? We got 3 kings. In
You
poker,
got
that's very difficult
insurance.
to beat. You can, but it's difficult.
I mean, that's AAA insurance right there. My hottest moment was Laris finally calling out Aegon for being a bitch. I mean, it was beautiful.
I think ultimately,
I could have written it any better.
I think it'll help Aegon in the long run. Sometimes you need your boy to check you, and you're like, at first you're mad, you defensive, then you think about it and you're like, he's right. He's right.
Yeah.
Like I noticed, Chris, you wore sleeves this week.
I I did
So
wear sleep. I just happened to be wearing this earlier today though, so
sometimes your boy says things and you're like, yeah, maybe I should wear sleeves. Mount Rushmore. We did, I think it was 2 weeks ago, maybe it was last week. No, it was last week. We did characters we wanted to see from other shows in Westeros. This
hmm
week we're doing characters from Westeros that we want to see on other shows.
This is gonna be fun. Do you
It's
want to
gonna be
start
fun.
or do you want me to start?
You can go ahead. You start. I started last one.
Let's start. Okay. I'm gonna go with my queen Rhaenyra.
Hmm.
But have you ever seen Jury Duty? Have you seen that
Oh
show?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, where everyone is all actors in stage scenes, and then there's
Yes.
one person who thinks they're like a real jury member.
I love it. It's so
We
funny.
want Rhaenyra to be that one person, and she's just taking it so seriously, but fucking up every decision the whole
Yeah.
time. And everyone's just like, come on, come on.
She would have such a hard time determining what to do if like guilty or not guilty, you know? She would not, she'd be like, I must advise my counsel. And they're like, you are the counsel. This is you. What do you mean advise your counsel? My first one is easy. Peter Baelish on Traitors. Can you imagine Peter Baelish?
Oh,
He'd be like, Alan Cumming, it is not I. I'm such a trustworthy boy. It would never be me who would traitor against this team. He would do all that. He'd be like, oh, Shancha. He'd be manipulating everyone. He's so obviously a traitor, though. That's
dude.
the problem. I feel like he'd be
Could
eliminated.
you imagine just the whole cast of Game of Thrones on Traitors? That would be so much fun.
Dude, Jon Snow, first one out. He would
Oh
be
yeah.
so bad at it.
Oh yeah.
He's too
I mean,
honorable.
no, Ned Stark. No, Ned Stark
Ned
would be the
Stark.
first one out for
He would be
sure.
at the table and be like, I am unfortunately a traitor. Like, I have to tell you this. My honor binds me to it. And they'd be
He's
like,
he's he's talking to Cersei by the werewood tree. Like, I'm gonna
yeah.
tell everyone that I'm a traitor tomorrow. So it's just like,
In the game of traitors, you either win or you die, and he would be terrible at it. Your second pick.
um, my second pick is Kristen Cole as Edward Scissorhands.
Whoa, that would be cool. I would love that. Why?
It
Like
just seems
it's like a
fitting to me. It just seems
yeah.
like that's his vibe.
Is it like a kink thing that you got going on?
No, no.
Good answer. Safe answer. This is probably not the place to talk about it if it were. So yeah, that was a test. Mine is gonna be Tyrion Lannister on Succession. Because
That
he's the
would be
king
fun.
of wanting things from his dad and just not getting them. And if you remember, Tyrion was supposed to get Casterly Rock technically by law, but Tywin was like, "No dice, chief."
No,
Um,
thanks.
yeah,
Love that. I had Corlys Valerian in The Wire.
I love that.
It would be really cool.
Yeah, Chris, you know what? You got a lot of growing. You got a lot of growing up. You got a ton of growing up to do. You got
What are
a
you
ton.
talking? What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about.
My third pick is going to be Darren and Ormond on couples therapy. I think they need to just figure it out. I know they're not actually a couple, but Darren and Ormond need to go to some counseling. They need to figure out, the sort of dynamics of their relationship. I think Ormond needs to maybe step away from the young man for a while, and sort of do some soul searching on just how manipulative he is. It's not good. It's not healthy.
Yeah, he's and you wonder why Ormond's not married. I think you kind of see a little bit of that, right?
Yeah.
My final pick is going to be Ulf White in The Hangover.
Oh my
That
God.
would just
That
how
is,
fun would that be?
dude, that honestly is a great choice. Can you imagine Ulf White in Vegas just with the
Just
boys, just looking for their other guys stuck on the roof? He's hammered.
it's a perfect casting.
I got my final one. Alice Rivers on Love is Blind. Because I love her voice.
Mm.
She could be doing weird magic through the wall. I love, well, wait a second. You know what I mean? So, and I just think it would be very cool because I love her accents. And I think me and her would, I don't know, what we would match. You know what I mean? I think we would
So
get
you
along.
would, in this scenario, you would be also on Love is Blind.
Yeah, yeah. I was good. Yeah, that would be I thought that was understood. I also
Okay.
would be on Love is Blind, and also we would match. Um,
Okay.
and then we'd get married, and then we'd have Nobu reservations. And then me and her would kick it. Love is blurry, right? Me and her. I feel like me and her would really get along. I really feel like me and her would get along.
Okay.
Westeros History Minute.
Did you just take a note on I really feel like
I
her
did,
and
I
I
put a
would
little
get
check.
along?
I just like, yeah, we really get along. Just check that. Well, I'll ask ChatGPT later what it thinks. Westeros History Minute. We got another suggestion from a fan this week. Well, not a fan. team member. Absolutely.
Hmm.
Kinzie, our third member, she could not be here this week with us, but she sent in a Westeros History Minute. I gotta find my notes. And this week's Westeros History Minute is about just how do the relationships between the dragons and the Targaryens actually work.
Some dragon lore.
Dragon lore. George is notoriously vague with it, but there is some stuff that we do know from Old Valyria that the connection is most definitely magical in nature. Remember, the Targaryens in history are not the only Dragon Lords. There were a ton of them in Old Valyria, right, Chris? So this is not.
Hmm.
So we know for a fact that blood magic happened, fire magic happened. There was some genetic bloodlines that were built. And that the dragons themselves, they don't know if they were ancient beasts or if like the old Valyrians created them by using wyverns, which live in Southros, and those weird fire worms that live underneath the Valyria and the volcanoes. There's a lot of
Hmm.
vague stuff out there, which, helps with the lore, but also can be frustrating at times.
Yeah, there's also rumors from a Shy that claim that dragons are from a Shy by the Shadow too.
100% correct. Literally, that they come from a shy, and a shy is famous for being a very mysterious. It's always dark there. That's why it's called the Shy by the Shadow. Like I think you like can't eat or drink anything there. Like it's all like you have to import everything because everything is like toxic. It's a really weird place. The bond that forms between dragons and their riders is for life. The dragon has to accept the rider. After the rider dies, the dragons can accept a new rider. And dragons can also, of course, reject riders, oftentimes very violently. And the dragons, this was a question that Kinsey specifically had, and it's the kind of the vague one, which is like the bond, like the real bond. They understand each other's intentions. Like even in season one, when Rhaenyra is having one of her painful pregnancies, it keeps cutting to Syrax like growling, like feeling almost the pain also. That is entirely up to interpretation between book and show, I feel like. Drogon oftentimes kind of just appears where Dany needs her in both the iterations. Um, but there is a bond there. And we know there's an empathy, maybe some magical awareness, there's some instinct. Um, and they can do things sometimes before spoken instructions.
Hmm.
But also, as we've seen, they're still giant beasts, they're animals, and if they are motivated enough, they will go out on their own.
Yeah, I think one thing that is being weaved into the show more so than Game of Thrones was the will of the dragons is almost stronger or more I guess in control than what the Dragon Riders is. And we saw it with Aemond and Lucerys.
Oh
We
yeah.
saw it almost in a way. Aemond has a way of being involved with a lot of these, but we saw it with Sheep Stealer
Oh yeah.
and Jacaerys getting murked.
Caraxes.
Caraxes pulling off to go meet Sheep Stealers. So yeah, there is kind of an ambiguity about who's actually in charge. Um, one note that I had, and you did a great job with that. I don't know like how different, like, is it intentional that George and the writers are leaving that up for interpretation? Like, is it, since we saw in Game of Thrones, right? And that's really
Yeah.
the only novel series that there's actual I guess what's the word I'm looking for? Like contemporary contact with dragons.
Yeah.
Is that kind of like part of it? Like, oh, I want there to be lore so that people could
I would
talk
assume
about it, sort of deal.
I would assume so. Like, I think probably George, if George had his druthers, he would flesh out this entire thing and we'd have all these histories. There's no time for that. He's not even finishing wins. So I think that's part of it. I do think too, with like what you said, especially about like in Game of Thrones, Daenerys had more. Like there is definitely between the shows and the books, and even though Game of Thrones ended the way it did, Daenerys, there's a level of chosen one to her. Obviously, she brings the
Yeah.
dragons back after generations of Targaryens did, so the dragons probably bend more to her will. Like she's the mother of dragons, and when mommy says goes, you know what I mean? So I
Hmm.
think that that's part of it. But yeah, George has been not extremely vague. I will say in his blog where he ripped the show apart, one of the things that he was very mad about was he said, there are certain ground rules though that I have set with my dragons. And my dragons do not really travel. Sheepstealer lives on Dragonstone, so for him to be in the Vale is pretty random. is what
Yeah.
he like just flat out
Um,
said that during the season, and everyone was like, George is not enjoying season 2 of House of the Dragon.
that's interesting. I mean, that's kind of a damning note to Condell and team, but
Oh yeah.
I mean that has been my least favorite storyline of the season so far. But no, how does that feel getting your first Westeros history minute in?
It felt great. I resisted all the urge in my power to not have like a dragon these nuts joke. You've already done that to me in the past, so I was like, should I not? And I said no. Let's make it educational. It was a joint like it was I like a conversational Westeros history minute. I think it felt good. I give it a 10 out of 10.
There we go.
Blew it.
Note it. You blew it.
You blew it. My you blew it, I bet is the same as yours. You go first, and then I'll pivot if it's the same.
Maya blew it was Janice grabbing the crown and thinking he had some leverage on Aegon and immediately getting shanked to death.
Yeah, it was rough. Uh,
So Janice of Rook's Rest, you blew it, buddy. We
you
didn't
blew it,
love you, but you
loser.
blew it anyways.
Yeah, that guy, Forrest, I didn't like that character. I'm glad he lasted an episode. Um, Maya blew it, unfortunately, is the Hand of the King, Kristen Cole. And yeah, I know it's important context. He is Hand of the King. So who knows I don't know what's going on there. But he is marching forward kind of blind. It's the blind is leading the blind right now, and that's not good. He's got to have a plan. He's got to have tactics. He clearly just lost Gwaine at the end of that episode. Gwaine's probably going to go hang out with Ormond at Templeton. So Kristen, I love you, buddy, but you blew it.
You blew it.
Yeah, it's your own fault. It's his own fault.
But we don't love him. We don't love him though.
No, that's true. I said I love you. I don't. He's a terrible person. I apologize. Off the jump. I do not love Kristen Cole. He's a bad man, and he's gonna get. He's just a piece of shit. Crown their ass, Chris. Who
Ooh.
is the MVP of this episode?
Well, I think you just got to go with the literal person who was crowned, Darren Targaryen. He's got coins made after him. He's the crown of this episode.
The third king. Pretty cool. I call that a three-peat. We're ripping through kings. Dude, that's sick. Mine was not him though. Mine was Alice
Hmm.
Rivers. I really like Alice.
Oh,
I
okay.
really like Alice Rivers, and I think that she should be on. I think the Love Is Blind or this episode was good too, but Love Is Blind has a lot of potential there. I think.
With
That
you also
Scottish.
in it.
With me, yeah, 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 yeah. Again, you don't even need to say it's understood at this. You don't need to say it. Love is Blind, Alice Rivers, crown your ass
Crown
and
her ass.
crown it and have a and right. Strategy with Lord Mims. Chris, this is a dumb one because I think we've ripped it apart the whole episode. I was gonna ask, is Cole's strategy wise? Is there a better thing to discuss? I don't know. We talk about Rhaenyra and Daemon with the gold cloaks. I don't know.
I mean, I think at first it was working, and then you got to adapt, right? I think any sort of
What a
tactics.
football coach. Absolute football coach.
I mean, if you're in war, like your ability to adapt in a lot of ways, especially if you're outnumbered, is going to determine your success. And Cole has basically decided to go on a suicide march. So I guess for what his goal is, he's being super successful. Um, but yeah, I think I would probably pivot like if as soon as the horses got ambushed, those first few in your vanguard, I think I'm kind of veering off to Tumbleton
Yeah.
or maybe even I don't know, like you're not too far from the Westerlands, like maybe try to recover some of that host that was scattered after the fish feed, but to continue on knowing that rivermen are in front of you is definitely a suicide march.
You got to make adjustments, 100%. Like, you got to watch the tape get better. He might as well just go back to Harrenhal. Like, what's Alice going to do? Scare his whole army? Go there. You know it's well provisioned. You can keep your garrison there for a little while. I think if you send the whole host to Tumbleton, you're really giving Damon a lot of fuel to Rhaenyra to be like, we should just burn that motherfucker. All these guys are in there. So maybe just spread out a little bit, but just
Yeah.
continuing on this march where you're going to have to ford that river. Are you nuts? They're going to just launch arrows at you.
I wonder, and all shows and movies do a really bad job at this, unless you're like elite tier or S tier. But like, where are the supply lines, right? Like, are
Yeah,
the
there's
Riverlands and the Winter are the River Lords and the Winter Wolves marching and living off the land? highly doubtful with the numbers that they have.
Yeah.
So maybe you double back and start attacking those supply lines. That could be a good tactic and throw them off. I don't
No,
know.
I agree. It's very vague. There's like no real um there's no real look into how they're provisioning those armies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's no like understanding of how they're and Game of Thrones sometimes would dabble into it, but rarely.
Yeah. And
You
I
know.
don't hold that against this show.
But
Like
you're
that's a
right.
thing in Hollywood that is rarely ever discussed.
It's especially an episode like this that's fairly slow to throw in some talk about like, the beats. It's gonna be, how are the carrots looking? People are gonna be like, they spent 10 minutes on carrots. But that's technically what builds a world that's realistic. So it's tough. It's like you kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul. Is that the expression?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So this brings us to our final segment of the day, which is trial by combat. Chris, I got a banger this week. I feel good about this one.
Let's go. Let's go.
All right. So you're gonna have to give me a minute. I apologize. This might be a little long-winded, but I'll rip through it. So what's everyone talking about right now? What's the new hot movie?
The Odyssey.
That's right. Nailed it. We did not prepare. He just got it right. So I figured, why not make my own Odyssey, right? And what's I haven't done a single one of these movies this season, but what has been a Deep Thrones classic the entire time? You know them. We all love them. The
The
boys.
the boys.
So
The
this is going to be
boys.
called the boy Dussy. So the boys, yeah, I got a lot of content here. All right, so just give me a second. All right, so the boy to see. All right, I don't know. I keep saying it differently, but the boy to see, however you say it is correct.
The boy
Um,
Dissy.
so there's a legendary house party going on, and it's been raging for 3 weeks. The house party of Troy, and the HOA is pissed, right? They're trying to, sneak into this house party that's happening, and the boys discover that they could do it with a giant Trojan condom box that they all hide themselves in. So the boys hide in this big giant box, and they kind of like launch it over the wall into the house party. But the HOA is like run by a bunch of like Karens, and they're pissed. So what they do is they banish them for 10 long years before, and so they're never allowed to set foot again in this subdivision where this house party was raging. And they have to live on the
Mhm.
outskirts of suburbia for all time, for the next 10 years because of this curse, right? And it's this 10-year long Boydacy or Odyssey to get back to the
Mhm.
subdivision where this party is supposedly the greatest, house party of all time. But also, this HOA is said to host or to have like a ancient relic that is of high value, right? So it's about breaking in, fighting the HOA, and getting this relic, and they go on this amazing quest to attain that. Suburban lore speaks, and they also team up with this super cool guy. Suburban lore speaks of a mythical primordial relic known only as the Boydacy. Nobody knows what it actually is, what it does, or why it possesses such immense cosmic weight. They even team up. Here, you want to hear about a silly guy they team up with? Early in their exile, they cross paths with a magical raccoon suffering from a severe, highly aggressive spine disorder named Jimothy.
Oh,
Jimothy waddles with
Timothy.
fierce, unhinged determination and barks out deeply profound, aggressively vulgar, and philosophical advice. Um, at one point, one of the more senior boys dares to question Jimothy's ability to fight because of his disorder. And Jimothy has a great line where he said, just because my back's jacked up doesn't mean I can't blow out your moms. So the boys, they have to go get counsel
Oh
from
man.
all the various people. They have to go see the Cyclops Karen. They have to go to the Home Depot Oracle. They have to go to the Great Costco Parking Labyrinth, right? These are all like Odyssey fucking things. I don't care. They also talk to a bunch of, there's like an Avengers style crossover where all the other boys are in it. The Squirrel Boys, the Shovel Boys, the Porta Potty Boys, they're all there. And at the very end, there's a giant battle in the middle of the cul-de-sac where all the boys team up. They fight. They are able to overthrow the HOA, so their 10-year-long exile is, overturned and repealed. And they then find the ancient relic and they crack it open. And they find something that's called the Eternal Keg Tap. If you attach this keg tap to a wall, to the ground, to anything, it pours crispy 8% ABV IPA, baby, right? We're talking about the
Oh
purest,
goodness.
coldest beer you've ever drank. It's the crispiest. And after they do this, all of the people of the subdivision celebrate. A line forms and the movie ends in sort of a fade out with people chanting, chug, chug, chug. and the boys are back, raging. In theaters this summer, the boy Dussy, the boy Duss.
Is it
Boy,
Boy Dussy? It's
I'm
Boy
not sure.
Dussy
I have to figure that out. I'm not sure. Boy
or
Dussy,
or Boy to See.
boy Dussy.
So so the existence of a Boy to See implies that there is also a Boy Odysseus. Is
Yeah. Oh,
that
dude, that's
true?
great. Yes, 100%. Boy Odysseus is their main boy.
Boy, so Boy
Boy Odysseus.
Odysseus interacts with Jimothy, and they're doing all these hijinks and stuff. At what point in time does uh, the Boy Dussy like? Is there a Penelope? Is there like a Penelope
Penelope type
Boy
character.
Dussy? Yeah,
Yeah,
like a
yeah. All those characters will have. We got to flush that out. This is more of a high level
okay,
concept, but we got to get those characters
okay.
in there, like a nice Penelope. Maybe she could be played by like a Sabrina Carpenter type. But yeah, we'll get the boy to see cast. We'll get the boy to see cast. The boy to see is going to be fuck filled with content.
Well, I can't wait to see the Boy Dussy. I'm sure it's going to bring a lot of joy to everyone who views the Boy Dussy is going to just be amazed at how in depth and you know dark the whole is.
Christopher Nolan's doing a fucking victory lap right now. Oh, I adapted the Odyssey. Wait till he sees the boy to see, and he's gonna be like, "Fuck, this is way better." Eternal Keg Tap is cool. The HOA is cool. Jimothy, they got Jimothy. Jimothy just came out. Jimothy was just put on the media, landscape, and already we got Jimothy in the mix.
Timothy just dropped.
Jimothy's a brand new thing, and he's already ripping, so that's pretty cool.
I'm in. Sign me up.
Yeah,
Boy
no,
Dussy.
that was that was a 10 out of 10 Deep Thrones. We're not allowed, we don't rate Deep Thrones, but if we did, that would be a 10 out of 10. I think it was some of our best work yet. Chris, anything else you'd like to add?
No, but I can't wait to hear what you say about Alice Rivers right here.
It was going to be Alice Rivers, and I was just going to say, Alice Rivers, hit me up. Let's get some Nobu reservations.
Whips, check out the hand switch. Shooters on swoosh, hitters don't miss. Aria just added a ton of y'all to my list. Bitch, death wish, not to be messed with, tested quiz. They shooting shots.